Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. This is episode 111, and we're joined by a very special guest. Her name is Christina Khalil, and she's running for the U.S. Senate as a Green Party member out of the state of New Jersey. Christina has a master's in social work, and she has a BA in psychology at Ramapo College. And we're going to discuss her 2024 Senate run, and we have a lot of issues to discuss. I really reached across her actually through Chase Oliver, someone that I interviewed last month, and I saw her information pop up, and now I went onto her website, and I was very intrigued with her positions, and I was talking to her off camera and saying that I'm into solutions, not so much into innuendos and all this other stuff, and so I had to reach out to Christina Khalil, and I just want to say welcome to the show and thanks for accepting the invitation.
Well, thank you so much for having me and inviting me. And I do have to say, Chase Oliver is great. He's very intelligent, and he's him and Jill Stein have both been very, very impressive to me.
It's funny. I just interviewed Jill Stein. That was my last interview, my latest one, episode 110. So interesting. Yeah, I hadn't had a lot of Greens come onto the show. I recognize that I have a lot of people from the Green Party who support my channel and watch
Mhm.
the channel. But it wasn't intentional. I simply send the invitations out and people accept it, and that's cool. If not, that's cool as well. But I am excited to get these perspectives on my show. But before we get started, I wanted to give in a slight ad and say thanks to all the supporters, all the listeners, all the viewers. This is strictly a YouTube channel right now, and we have quite an international audience. Strictly 43%, more or less, of the people outside of the United States watch our show. So we
Oh,
have a 57-40
awesome.
split, very international, community-based show. But that was always the intention of Kiko's Free Thinkers Forum, and that may be indicative of some of the guests that I've had onto the show, and may also be part of my research interest, as I do hold a PhD in Spanish, and I'm a Latin
Oh,
American
awesome.
specialist, and so Caribbean Latin American literature is my area of interest. And I think a lot of those perspectives may be exemplified in some of the episodes, and maybe that's the reason behind it. Regardless, I'm happy. I'm not going to complain because I love the people around the world. I think we need to look at the world as far as people and not
Hmm.
governments. Stop looking at
Yes.
these imaginary boundaries and look at people for people. And I think that will kind of go into decisions. Maybe we shouldn't bomb people, that look just like we do. Maybe we should try to talk to those people.
Hmm.
But I just wanted to get started and put the focus on Christina because that's why we're here today. This episode 111, and I wanted my audience to get to know you really because this is the first time we met, and so it would be a great opportunity just to introduce yourself, give as much time as you want, your upbringing, what got you into politics, and where we at this point today.
All right. Okay. I guess so I'm a first generation Egyptian, and I grew up in foster care. So I was always in and out of homes, shelters. And so I got a lot of exposure to good and bad things. But when I was young, I always said, and I always paid attention to school, something always told me stay in school no matter what happens, get your degree, because education's the ticket to freedom and independence. So I was actually, I didn't know what I was going to do after school, but then somebody, excuse me, someone actually talked me into applying to college. And I was like, I don't want to go to college and blah, blah, blah. It's expensive. And then they explained, oh, you're in foster care, you could take out loans. But no one ever explained because I owe student loans and I still can't pay them back because I think we all can you know relate to that struggle. But so I went to college, and then after college, I took a break. I went for my BA in psychology with a minor in substance abuse. Actually, that's not on the website. And then I tried different fields, and I just bounced around, and then I decided to go back to college for my master degree. And in my journey of obtaining my master degree, I started learning about politics and policies because social work is very intertwined with that. Budgeting, grants, how do you account for all the dollars? How do you break down, what a budget receipt document looks like and stuff like that? I'm like, wait, the numbers don't add up. Things aren't making any sense. And now I'm getting angry when I should be enjoying my master's graduate studies. And I wasn't the only one. A lot of people were like, wait, this doesn't make sense at all. And then while I was going for my master's in social work, COVID happened. So I was going to school full time and I was working full time. And when I was working as a frontline worker at a hospital and at a medical detox center, and it was very exposed because again, like I'm seeing it for what it is, how the administration and how whether both in the hospital and in office, they're all hiding behind their offices and closed doors, and we're not only on the front lines. And then when nurses and hospital workers are passing away from this, and it's not just the patients, it's like, oh, thank you for your service, RIP, and then it's business the next day. And no one, and they're saying we're heroes and stuff, but nobody's giving any bereavement or assistance to the family suffering. And these people were the breadwinners of the families. So now we're getting a rise in homelessness. I'm seeing a rise in overdoses and addictions. And in the hospital, it went from having the PCR test to having the rapid test. And I remember the one doctor I worked with, he fought with administration. He was like, the rapid is only 50% accurate. If they get a false negative and the PCR comes back positive, you guys are putting people together for more money and you're exposing people. And we still have no idea what COVID is at that time. But the hospitals only cared about the money, not about the patient care. And and I was talking to other people, and it wasn't just our hospital that was experiencing this. And even when it came to the ERs, they were overwhelmed. And I remember when in New Jersey, for example, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, liquor stores aren't essential. The gyms closed down, but the liquor stores were open and essential." And I think that happened across the country. Where are they essential or not? And what a lot of people don't realize is how bad addiction was. If liquor stores closed down, we already could not handle all the COVID positive patients, and we were already overstaffed. We couldn't handle the people that had ventilators. We were struggling with that. If the liquor stores closed down, we would have people going through withdrawal, and we could not hospitalize them too. So that's why a lot of things were messed up and it wasn't taken care of right. And then, Biden comes in, he makes all these fake campaign promises. And then at the end of the day, he continues corporations, business as usual, and people are suffering. And he's forcing people to go back into the office because corporations, because working from home, if you could work from home, do it. Because a lot of jobs, it helps the environment. It also saves people money, and we could turn these empty buildings into affordable homes so we could house people because we have a housing crisis on the rise. But what a lot of people don't realize, in this country, we have more available homes and apartments than we do people. We don't need to actually continue to build these pilot program, these affordable homes, when we can make what we have affordable. We just have to challenge the banks and rewrite the policies. So we have people in office that literally you give them this position and they literally just sit there. They don't do anything. And when you ask them questions, they say, I don't know. Well, it's your job to know. How are you holding a federal office when a federal position when you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how things are working? Like, you have to be able to stand up for what's right, and you have to be able to stand up for the people that vote you in, and you turn away your constituents. So I was so tired of that. And then plus Menendez, he's on his second federal trial. That was my original opponent. I don't know if he's going to run, actually. So he's on his second federal trial, and the Dems supported him on his first one, and it was so much corruption, so much embezzlement, and there was even issues with him being with underage people, and the Dems rewarded him with another seat. So it shows the corruption. And then not only that, we have a rise in cop cities, we have a rise with police brutality, we have a rise when it comes to overdoses and addiction, and now they're criminalizing homelessness. Now they're New Jersey overturned some laws and made it the opiate addiction, punish people more for being caught, and they also cut funding from mental health and addiction services. They got funding for programs for families. So, and then they're throwing these progressive labels on themselves saying, I'm progressive, but I'm taking from the community, but this is progressive. So it becomes an issue where it's like, you guys clearly can't do your job. I can sit here and tell you how everything works. I could sit here and tell you how we could lower taxes and invest in better infrastructure in the US, but then you guys want to send these bombs overseas. And it's not just in Palestine. We have Congo, we have Sudan, we have Afghanistan. We are destroying the entire world and the entire planet. And then you got organizations like the Sunrise Movement, where they're endorsing people and supporting people that are destroying the climate, that are voting for the military-industrial complex, which is the #1 climate disaster in the entire world. And then you want to say, oh, switch to electric vehicles, and then, but you don't want to make them affordable. You don't want to build use public transportation, but you don't want to invest in the infrastructure at all. And then, so it becomes this giant vicious circle where you keep putting the pressure on the working and poor class, and you're saying it is our responsibility to fix the messes that our government has created, and it's not our responsibility. We need people that aren't going to hide in their office, and we need people that are going to stand up front and take accountability, because I always believe accountability is what breaks insanity. So when we continue this vicious circle, especially in people that we don't trust, especially in people that that have proven how corrupt and sick they are, that it's up to us, the voters. We have to vote people in. We have to do the research, and we have to see, okay, this is a good candidate. You can't sit between red and blue, because I've met some actual progressive Republicans that said, I just can't deal with the Dems, but I will support a Green. I can't deal with them because all they do is lie and cover up. And then even in New Jersey, we have like these two progressive Dems that they say ceasefire to one group of people. They don't mention ceasefire to the other group of people for money. And then they tell the voters, I support Biden and Hillary. How do you support Biden and Hillary when Biden's been accused of rape, but then you hate Trump because he's sexually assaulted women? And I'm just like, okay, so Biden and Trump have very similar issues there. And Biden has continued Trump's policies on immigration, on the war, the military-industrial complex, and it's just, it continues to go. So it's like, and now they're rubbing it in our faces on how similar Biden and Trump are. And that when people are just like, at the point, there was someone I was actually debating with, very nice gentleman, and he was a guest on my show. Oh, well, not my show. I was a guest on his show, and he started telling his audience, he was like, yeah, but we don't want Trump because we have to vote the lesser of the two evils. And I challenged him on a show. I'm like, well, there is no lesser of two evils. So you're either telling me you're okay with police brutality and all these issues and hashtags and our water being destroyed and poison and people not being able to get food and houselessness, because that's what both of them represent. They do not represent us. They represent their corporate interests. So you either are voting for more harm to people like me and you, or you're going to stand and make this difference and make this change. And when I started my Senate race, I ran as a progressive Dem first. And as I'm meeting with them, they said, we're not going to do any progressive policies. We're going to support who we pick. We're going to support our friends. So I'm like, they told me it already. Nothing's going to change in New Jersey. They told me already nothing's going to change in the country or internationally. So it was up to me whether I just stop this race or I switch. And I met with the Green Party and Madeline Hoffman. She was the previous Senate candidate for the Green Party. She passed the baton to me and she endorsed me. She was like, yes, take over, Christina. Like, we need people that are going to fight for change and fight for justice, because she's now in another country fighting for justice and helping them over there. So and I stress to people, it's not about the party, because I'm also part of a ceasefire of candidates coalition, and we are countrywide, and we meet every Wednesday, and we're working on doing live shows every Wednesday. And some of us are progressive Dems in other states. You can't be a progressive Dem in New Jersey, but I know in Kentucky you can really be a progressive Dem. So some of us are progressive Dems, and then some of us are progressive independents. It's not about the party, it's about the person, and people have to start being able to differentiate that. So I stress to people so much. We all do not, we've agreed not to take APAC money, we've agreed not to take corporate money, we've agreed not to take mega donors. So it's really up to the people. If you want to see people like me in office, we do need donations. And donations don't just have to be money. It could be a like or a share. It could be you telling other people, interview this candidate. It could be you, if you have space, letting us use your space for like 2 hours for an event, hosting us somewhere. If you're a bagel shop, donating bagels so we could do a breakfast whenever. So it's about unity and community and teamwork, because that's the only way we're going to be able to bring down the corruption. So feel like there was more questions.
No, I'm glad. There's just so much. You could have kept talking. I would have been smiling because there was a lot of great information you shared, and I appreciate that because it leads me to some questions that I had prior to the interview that I think that you may be able to address even more so than Dr. Stein, because I asked Dr. Stein a question about the Green Party, Democratic Party. There's something going on there. I've observed this myself just in my own personal political journey. I've said on the air before that Obama, after his first term, I stopped supporting Democrats openly.
Yeah.
So basically, after that first term, when he lied about closing Guantanamo, that's when I was like, you know what, he's a liar. He's not going to fulfill any of his promises. And because I had a lot of hope that he would close that down and everything. And it just kind of led me to like, okay, this is a betrayal, obviously. And then you start to see the pattern with the militarism and all those endeavors. And then it's like, okay, this guy is just a neocon, just like everybody else. But somehow he gets the benefit. He's a black person, but he somehow gets all this credit for being a Democrat and being apparently for social justice and helping the people out. And so I had that journey start a long time ago, but I know that there's still people who fight against it. And you mentioned it before, the lesser two evil argument. You always hear this. And I don't know if it gets elevated during the election cycles, but my question for you is, when someone is a Democrat and they're trying to look for a new political home, because a lot of people are politically homeless. I would consider myself politically homeless. I'm an independent, I guess. But a lot of the Green Party people that I talk to, I feel like there's an issue with the Green Party because a lot of people attach them to the Democratic Party. I know that they're not the Democratic Party, but the psyche of the person, for whatever reason, they're lumped like, oh, those people are just Democratic Party light. Do you think that that's an issue with Greens? That's something that I've seen, and I don't know if it's because I'm in the state of Tennessee or what, but do you have any comment based on that?
So I just want to make sure. So what you're saying is you've run into, because I haven't run into this, but I think I have an idea to explain it. So when you run into this, people just say, "Oh, Greens are mini Democrats or just like Dems." Okay. When I tell, okay, so if someone were to say that to me, I would say, look at the receipts, and I would just leave it at that. And the receipts would be, look at the different donors and look at their receipts of what they've actually done to hurt the community and never actually uplift it. And then look at the Greens, where we're always out on the front lines, even though we're banned from mainstream media. People could give you pictures for years and video documentation for years of them actually being active within the community and fighting against corruption, while you have the Dems in office saying, I don't know how this bill got here or how it got signed. And then they're not upfront. So the Greens are more upfront. The Dems, the receipts, they are more like Republicans. And it's not, and these are just the ones in office. And again, I want, like, the progressive Dems, there are progressive Dems that are supporting Jill Stein. They're supporting the Green Party because Jill represents what the progressive Dems wish they could be. So that's where there is, but there's also independents supporting Jill Stein. There's also Republicans supporting Jill Stein. So, but there is a huge difference, because when I went to the Green Party, I said, these are my progressive values and this is what I want to do for the community. They're like, that's what we want too. When I went to the Dems, they're like, this is not going to help give us money. We can't do this. So the Dems are more about money, status, and the donors. The Greens are more about community and the individuals, because we run on grassroots.
Yes, that I definitely understand that. I was just more so prefacing that for people who may not be into the political realm as much. But no, I definitely think you answered the question. I appreciate that. It was just more so the psychological negative impact on voters because I know that the mainstream media is bad about, and they've already co-opted the messaging because they changed the Green New Deal what it originally meant to something completely different.
Yep.
Once the Democrats started to campaign off of the Green New Deal.
And it was the Greens that created the Green New Deal.
Exactly.
And then the Dems took it and added fossil fuel to that as renewable energy. Fossil fuel is what's destroying the planet, and that's their main source of energy, and that's the main source of what's happening around the world. So we don't want that. Like for example, we have what's happening in Congo for electric vehicles, the chips and stuff like that. That's the Democrats. The Greens would stop that immediately and give them their country back and clean out their water so they can fish again, so they can feed themselves again. We would give them the proper medical care for the medical damage we've caused them. We would own up and take responsibility for what the US has done. Where the Dems, they'll sweep it under the rug. And I always now I started saying to people, because I'm tired of protests and hashtags. Like, if you want to continue to go down this route, then we're going to keep having hashtags. I want to see people grow up in a safe environment. And I don't believe so. The Dems, they believe people are disposable. Like, they can't say Palestinians are human beings. I can say that because they're so scared to offend their donors. I'm not with their donors. I don't care if I offend them. Everyone's a human being. We all have a beating heart, two eyes, and the Palestinians need more attention right now because of the catastrophic current event and the atmosphere that they're in. We're not scared to call people out. The Dems can't call out Biden because it's a gang. And when it comes to that political thinking, it mimics a lot of gangs still hold more honor than the politicians, but it mimics a lot of gang mindset where it's like blue is blue. We have to support each other no matter what kind of crimes we do. Red is red, where we have to support each other. And these guys do so much fighting to divide us. And I always say, united, we are strong. So when we stand against the corrupted and we stand united and dismiss the party and we look at each other as individuals, then that's going to help us dismantle the corruption. It's going to help us getting our country back. That's going to help us saving the world, and that's what's going to give children a better future.
Something and I love everything that you're saying. And I think I mentioned Chase earlier.
Yeah.
I was talking to Chase about this. If you're outside of the two parties, whether you're an independent even not, you don't even have to be part of a political party. I just think that the discourse has to be civil, like it has to be. And some people may disagree with that. I just think it does because we have nothing but everything to lose if we don't have a civil discourse outside of the duopoly because um, people are already on the edge, and I think people are wanting to find a new like political place to be that represents their values. But there's always this constant fighting and the constant like the shiny object every single second. And I think the Green Party definitely has a lot of great potential to even grow more than it has.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's also some things like visibility is a big problem. You had mentioned it. I can't even think of like where my local Green Party office is. Um, the infrastructure type stuff, I think, is maybe an issue, but ballot access would probably go a long way to, I guess, spreading out the message that you all need to grow that party.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious about the state of New Jersey. What is the Green presence in the state of New Jersey? I know it's probably larger than the state of Tennessee, for instance, but how represented are Greens across that state?
So I do have to say this, out of all the states, the Green Party New Jersey has one of the best infrastructure and teamwork dynamic. So because I haven't been exposed to other states, I feel like everywhere is like New Jersey. I also haven't really sat down I've spoken to a lot of Greens, but I haven't really asked about their infrastructure. We've spoken about politics or doing events together, and stuff like that, and how do we get volunteers and stuff like that. Because like for me, National is working with me to help me with a lot of things. So I have National, I have the state, and then I have myself, and then we have a Green 13 slate of candidates that are running to we're going to be the only ethical ceasefire candidates on the ballot in 2024. But we're working on getting the volunteers. So we're our infrastructure, we're building it. But I also said I want our blueprint to be the rest for the entire country. So I want all the Greens to mimic the blueprint we decide to come up with. But it is a small team. We do our best because like I work a full-time job and I work a part-time job. I'm running for US Senate, and it's not easy to do that. And I truly do not recommend anyone to do that. I literally do not know how I'm doing it. This is not even like something to brag about because it does take a toll on a person individually. And I have to remember to take like time, a little, even if it's an hour here or there, take time off and like really like take a break and slow down. But we also have the other Greens in New Jersey, they work full-time jobs too. And so when it comes to visibility, we do our best. We always make sure at least one of us is at a protest a week. We always make sure if we could get all of us somewhere together, even if it's like 2 or 3, we try to do that as a team. So people know that the Greens exist in New Jersey, but people are so scared of getting of consequences because in New Jersey, so the heart of corruption is in New Jersey, in this country. If progressive organizations step aside and endorse and support Green Party candidates, there's consequences for them in New Jersey. So you know how employees are getting fired for talking about Palestine, even if it's outside of work? That would happen with Green Party in New Jersey. So the bullying and the pressure and the stress, a lot of people are forced to remain silent, supporting us. So but they do know we exist. They do talk to us privately, like we're all like mistresses. They'll be on the phone, okay, like don't tell anyone that we called, don't tweet, I'm gonna go somewhere and like we can't like be next to each other, but I'll be there to support. And I'm like, oh God, I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, like you guys have to unite and really challenge this. Like I can't go out if I was ever under that kind of stress to like like fight for what I believe in. I couldn't live like that. If anyone ever put that kind of pressure on me, I couldn't do that. I would never even tolerate that in a relationship. I'm like, but you guys are not even in a relationship and there's nothing benefiting you except you're just adding more stress on yourself. And so why allowing that type of abuse to continue and that kind of control to continue is what enables these issues. And like in New Jersey, they just they just abolished, so we have one of the most rigged and corrupted ballots in the entire country because they actually like divide each candidate by a line and they push their favorite candidate up ahead. So we have 2 elections coming up. We have the primary and the general. So for the primary only, and it's only this election year, they only abolished the line. But that doesn't help the Greens at all because I'm already going to the general. They are keeping the line for the general election. So now they're saying, oh, we're so progressive, we abolish line, but you guys already rigged a rigged system for yourself to make it look like you did something. And then you have corporate people that support that support Biden and Hillary and the corruption already still going for the same people still going for the primaries. And then you also have the same people saying, and this, like, again, New Jersey is its own special world with corruption. And then you have people saying, oh, your vote doesn't matter or count. But then they're asking Greens to personally switch to Dems, vote for their candidate, vote for the candidate. They ask, well, vote for this one in the primary. And after the primary, switch back to Greens. And then you could vote for Christina afterwards. And there's multiple people this is happening to. I'm like, that's so disrespectful. But then you're tweeting out saying our votes don't matter. And then you're begging us behind the closed door saying that you're begging for our vote for you because you're worried about losing. Talk about being pathetic. And they can't even, and I'm very happy that they're exposing themselves. they can't call Palestinian human beings or say that they have a right to live or exist in general. And then you have the only Arab candidate running, and then they're calling for a ceasefire, but they can't even acknowledge I exist or consider me a human being. So I'm like, you can't even acknowledge the only Arab Senate candidate running. You can never acknowledge that Palestinians are humans. You never even said that yet. You never will say that, because that's going to go against your donors. And then we have Andy Kim, who bullied and he's called a progressive. He bullied Tammy Murphy to drop out the race. She drops out the race, but he took AIPAC money. He's been called out for that. He took donations from Sam Bankman-Fried. He's not a good crypto guy who's been sentenced recently to 25 years in prison. So he takes mega donors, and even Tammy Murphy exposed him and said, yeah, we know I'm taking PAC money and corporate money, but so is Andy Kim. And she broke it down. She's like, all these people, that's a PAC donation he took. And he's calling the PAC donate, the super PACs, the grassroots. So now they're forcing people, they truly believe New Jersey voters are stupid at the end of the day. Because they're like, I'm just going to say progressive and grassroots, and they're going to believe me. I'm going to just keep saying progressive and grassroots, but then they're too stupid to look at the receipts. They're never going to look up where the money's come from. They're not going to do the research. But then we have people that are doing the research. We have people that are putting out video evidence, but then they pay the media to suppress it. And then they're uplifting their favorite candidate and saying, this is a progressive, and the real progressives, they're saying, they're pretending we don't exist, because going toe-to-toe or debating, they would lose against a real progressive. Like for me, they put a $750,000 price tag for me to debate. You cannot be a progressive and raise $750,000 without taking dark money. So tell me how these guys, and then Andy Kim, in the first week he got $1 million, but he couldn't say where he got the $1 million from. How do you get 1 million in 1 week? That's not grassroots. That's corporations and backdoor deals. So we have, and so again, back to the original, New Jersey is the heart of the corruption. If we can make this change and break through the system in New Jersey, it's going to send a shockwave across the country, because New Jersey is the route where all the change has to happen, and the rest of the country and the world will follow suit, because the most corruption is in New Jersey. You have to hit it and take it down where it started from. You got to go to the root cause of the issue.
I don't know. I think some people in the audience will beg to differ about where the corruption is the worst. I mean, I've heard the same stories about California. I've heard the same stories about other states, just these horror stories about the backdoor deals. And but something you kept saying that is interesting, and I think it goes back to the psyche again. Just like, for instance, I've run around with different circles of friends, but I'd say that on average, there's a certain type of mindset there. And I know my friends really well. I know who they support and who they don't support. But there's definitely an effectiveness of the propaganda, because like I was telling my friend Tracy Carson, she has a YouTube channel. Shout out Tracy Carson. We were talking about how we have this proximity growing up as a Democrat. Like, I grew up as a Democrat. My family grew up as a Democratic party. I guess they knew, that's all they knew. But that's also something that people are still confronting. You know, whether you grew up with a Republican family or what, is breaking away from the two parties. And that still seems to be such an uphill battle, because I talk to people all the time, and it's just like, you don't sound like a Democrat at all. And I keep hearing this word progressive this, progressive that. I don't even know what that means anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can be I don't think you can be a progressive and Democrat. I think it's an oxymoron. I don't think you can be consciously part of a
I agree.
And then call yourself a progressive. But somehow they get the benefit of that. And because I still see a lot of people supporting those same, I'm like, why do you still have faith in these politicians when they've shown you, even with a person like AOC, it's like, okay, it's been in office long enough for you to see the pattern. Okay, the Iron Dome, whether it's Iron Dome, whether it's dragging your foot in the mud about Palestine, or whatever it is, don't you see the party has a grip of those people's minds. They're never going to be different unless they break the party. But
Yep.
it's like they still get support though.
And well, I 100% agree with you on that. And if the squad was never able to stand up and do what they were voted in to do, they're never going to be able to do it within the party. And like even something came out today for Jamal Bowman. And it was Savvy Sabs, actually. She's really good. She called it out. She was just like, he's saying not to take APAC money, but he's taking APAC money. So how do you say you're support candidates that don't take APAC money while you're taking their money? And so it's the corruption, but it's right in your face, though. It's like they're not even hiding it, because they used to hide it, but now everything is all in the open, especially this election. And it's like they're rubbing it in your face, saying, we're going to do this and you're going to still vote for us because we are the party that can get away with it, not the Republicans, not a third party. We can literally do what we want, and we're going to be able to get away with it because you're still going to vote for us. Because I'm going to tell you that I'm a progressive and you're going to believe me. I'm going to tell you that it's Republicans and you're going to believe me. And the Democrats had the presidency, the House, and the Senate from 2020 to 2022 and could not pass any single progressive policies. And then they're just like SCOTUS and this and that. I'm like, the Republicans never need all three houses under control, but yet they're always able to pass their policies and SCOTUS never gets involved. But then they'll challenge the filibusters if it benefits them, but you guys can't challenge the filibusters. And so it doesn't make sense, but they're always coming up with an excuse and they always want to blame Republicans. Well, why don't you guys call out the Dems that don't support the progressive policies and then run candidates that actually do? No, we can't do that.
No,
Oh,
because
so
they're Republicans themselves.
well, yeah, they are. And in New Jersey, we've had like Tammy Murphy. She used to be a Republican and she switched to Dems and threw a progressive label on it. And then her husband wound up in office. She was supporting and donating to George Bush. She was the Murphys were just hanging out with Trump's kids the other day, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner in New Jersey. So they are friends. And even Biden says, oh, this is all one big club. Like Biden's telling you what it is up front. And then he says, you guys are going to vote for me no matter what I say. So what there is no difference except for the colors. And it goes back to the gang reference. Well, you're just doing the same thing, but it's the different flags you're representing. Which flag are you repping at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. It just that's the part that's tough for me. Just as I interview people outside of that on purpose, and people ask me like, Kiko, well, are you really helping the situation if you don't interview people who are part of the two parties? I mean, I've reached out to people part of the two parties, and you might be surprised of some of the guests I might be having on down the road. So don't judge me yet or whatever. I reach out to people. I can only um take them in if they accept the invitation. I can't force someone to come on my show. I wish people only knew to people keep bombarding me about Cornel West. I've been trying to get Cornel West on my show for 18 months,
Mm-hmm.
ever since I started this show. I know people who know Cornel very well. I'm not going to force myself to keep reaching out to Cornel West if he doesn't want to come on. He knows who I am. And if he doesn't want to come on, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it from all different types of people. Why come you don't have these people on? Why don't you have these people on? Dude, I can only do so much. Like,
Yeah.
if you only knew this so-called independent media, smaller channels go up against this too. And then there's certain independent channels, their whole dedication is about the two parties. They won't
Yeah.
even platform people outside of the two parties, but they
Well,
talk all this shit about, oh, we got to help the third parties. We got to help the people outside. But all they focus on are Democrats and Republicans all the time. And so, again, that's the stuff that I have to deal with and what other creators have to deal with who are actually trying to do something about the system. But you can only do so much. You're one person, and I've
mhm.
had to learn I can't beat myself up over it because it's never going to be good enough for some people.
Well, yeah, no, you definitely don't want to overwork yourself. Like, you don't want to overstress yourself. And again, like, you can't control what other people do. And I'm in the same boat where I'm just like, I prefer actually independent media, because when you go on a mainstream platform, they're going to tell you what you can and can't talk about. But so I'm at the point where I'm in my run where, like, you could tell me what I can and can't talk about, but I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. But and then I do encourage you, like, if you could get people on your show, then have them. But the only thing I would say is hold them accountable during your interview.
Oh,
Bring
well, of course, obviously. I mean, I've had to fight with people. I mean, I'm not going to tell people this name that I sent an invite to yesterday, and I actually mailed a letter to this person. So I got a lead to mail this person. So if they come onto the show, they're going to be probably a lot of shock. But I will reach across and talk to people. I'll talk to
Yeah.
anybody, but I'm definitely going to get my point across at the same time. But I definitely like the way you're expressing certain views, because what you're telling me up until this point is that you don't have any kind of preconceived notions about potential voters or even people within the political system, because you said yourself that Greens have support from people all across the political
Yeah.
aisle. And so I think we need more coalition type building. That's why I'm not going to talk bad about people, even the libertarians that I disagree with. I'm not going to say bad things about them, because if they're really trying to help build a movement outside of the system, like we really need each other. Like, I'd rather someone support a libertarian over a Republican. I'd rather someone support a PSL person over a Dem, or an independent over a Dem or a Republican. That at this point we kind of got to look at it that way.
Hmm.
And the values aren't going to line up 100%, maybe not even 90, 80%, but at least you're getting closer to what you're trying to build, as opposed to this never ending cycle of just, it's not going to go anywhere. You know that they're corrupt. And like you said, they're telling you, you're going to vote for me anyway, even though I'm not going to promise you anything. I'm not going to fulfill the promise, but you're still going to support me. I mean, how sad is that? That people, they still fall into that.
Hmm.
It's like the boogeyman on this side versus this boogeyman.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. I've even reached out to the libertarians in New Jersey. I haven't gotten a response back actually, which is fine. But I do talk to some libertarians. They're just like, no, don't give up. Keep reaching out to libertarians, because there is a lot of overlap, and I do want to build that movement and that coalition together, because again, people are so divided, and that's why we keep losing. And all of our beliefs, whatever identity you have, we overlap in so many things. So let's build on what we agree on, and then let's come to a conclusion together on what we don't agree on. But right now, the future is at stake. Like, are we going to continue down the road of the the private prison industry, where people like Alabama, for example, has been caught utilizing the 13th Amendment just straight up for slavery. People are not allowed to have sick time. People are not allowed to say no. And if they say no, that actually hurts them for being released sooner. And they could actually get bad marks where they have to wind up filling out, doing their full time, or they might get manipulated where they wind up staying longer for whatever prison sentence. And a lot of people are suffering with medical issues. They're not even obtaining the medical care. Then you have the bodies. I think was that in Alabama too, where the bodies are behind the prisons?
I wouldn't know. Maybe Louisiana. I'm not 100% sure.
I feel like
You
that was.
know more about it than me. I haven't heard about this.
Yeah. Well, all I want to do is highlight is these things are only being highlighted in one area, but this is happening across the country. We do have multiple burial sites when it comes to being behind the prison. We do have families not getting connected with their loved ones. We do have people lost in the prison industrial complex system. We do have slavery happening in all the prisons, and the corporations love it. So the corporations, they come in, they pay 13 cents for whatever item the prison people are building or creating, and then they sell it for a 200% markup. At what point there's no treatment, then you want people to be rehabilitated through slavery to go back out, but then there's no housing. You punish people for having a criminal record. There's no education. There's nothing happening that's actually giving any incentive to or guidance because a lot of people don't know. People need guidance and structure in order to go down a different path. People need education, people need housing. So majority of my policies are based off of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the basic physiological. If I can get you clean water, housing, education, just the basic needs, everything else is going to follow through afterwards. So, and we're taking from the communities, and people are wondering, why is crime up? Why is suicide up? Why is this up? Why is that up? Well, it's because we're harming people. So hurt people hurt, but if you also put people in survival mode and they have to do what they have to do in order to survive, they're going to do what they have to do. So if a person has to, steal a car and sell their radio, the stereo, for $500 so they can make rent, but there's no other option for them to make rent, they're going to do that to make rent. And it does hurt the working class, but again, these are all policy choices, and this is what your government wants to happen. They want crime to be high. They want people to hurt themselves and their lives. They want issues to happen. They want the overdoses because sick people create money. So that is, I guess that answers my rant. Answers my rant right now.
No, you're totally fine. We're going to get into some of your policy positions, even though you touched on, some of your views about policy, without a doubt. I'm just, people are like, what are you doing, Kiko? Doing the interview sometimes. And I've gotten that from some viewers. A lot of times I'm either taking notes, I'm looking at notes, I'm looking at the guests, I'm in 1,000 different places at once. For me, the interview is like an essence.
Yeah.
It's like my safe space in a way. So maybe a little unorthodox, but it works. And
Right, it's your way you do it. So
no doubt. But I noticed the Hill with Khalil, and I know that's, it's obviously a slogan, but it comes from something. What exactly are you alluding to when you say Hill with Khalil?
So in my entire career, I have been presented with impossible, or I view it as impossible, where like people will present it. I always get people, I'll just say it, when people come to me in my career, I get them at rock bottom. I don't get people at their best. So whether it's families, individuals, or couples, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and we have to rebuild slowly, and it takes some time. Well, yeah, it does take a lot of time, but then we have to rebuild the person and their infrastructure and their support and really get them up. But I've had so much success, and I remember one organization I worked for. They really took advantage of me. I was doing like 12, 16 hours and not getting paid overtime a day. Yeah. But I went into that facility and it was real bad. And I remember working and rebuilding that relationship and staying late to do audits because the state came in. I was able to drop the Medicaid audits. And then I was also able to rebuild the relationship with different organizations so they would send clients to us. And I've gotten a lot of compliments where they've seen less relapses with me. And I've gotten that compliment, more family unification, more family support, better communication, better recovery, more structure, more held accountability. So it comes from where I'm able to actually like heal people individually and heal smaller in a smaller area, but I want to take it on a larger level, because these are solutions that if you had somebody that not scared, we can write the policy solutions in the federal level, because it starts from the top. It doesn't start from the bottom. It starts with the leaders in office because they control the budget, but then you have people that pretend they don't know how our monetary system works, and then you're just like, how it works because you've already had training in it. And then you're just like, well, if you just did this, this, and this, taxes would lower, people have more money in their banks and their pockets, and then more people could get housing and food and all this stuff. Or, I want to do this in this community. We could actually have the funding for it. But people rather pocket the money, the politicians, embezzle it, hide it. They don't want to actually give it to the communities. And that's the biggest issue that we have. We have people that do not want to hold anyone accountable and say, I don't want to vote. I don't want to be involved. And I get that you're burned, but you're either okay with the way things are, or you're going to fight to make the difference. And the way to fight is to join other people in the fight. And again, I stress the unity part, because united we stand strong. Divided, as they want us to be, is where we fall short, and we will never win anything.
I tell you, Christina, looking at I looked at different stuff, and people like they know I'm a researcher, so I'm looking all types of stuff up. But your Ballotpedia really stood out because I don't know if I had this preconceived notion about certain green candidates. I'll let you answer the question for yourself, and then I just want to mention the three positions on Ballotpedia that you stress the key issues: inflation, high premiums, universal health care, Social
Mhm.
Security, with high premiums and universal health care kind of being, combined together. Um, what do you think separates you from other greens as far as priorities? Like, do you feel like you're unique as a green compared to other people's platforms, for instance?
So I will say this. I have been um offered to take some seats in different positions in Greens. But with those positions comes some rules, and I'd rather, for my candidacy, I'd rather be unrelated and unattached to certain rules because I like to be in people's faces and like call people out with certain things that I don't want to represent the state party, which I would if anything went bad, or national. But then they could say like, oh, like she's not breaking any rules because like for me, like right now I started collecting as an individual. I started collecting signatures for Jill Stein. I could do that because I'm not attached to state or national rules. So if I held a position in one of those seats, I couldn't do that. But I'm like, we have to get the same amount of signatures. So I'm like, I might as well just do this and knock this out the park for both of us. So, and it gives me more freedom to actually focus on infrastructure and volunteers and actually being more hands-on, because then I'm not tied up with other things. So I would say that's where the difference is. I feel like I have more freedom because I'm not held to like certain events. Like if I pick the if I took the roles, then I would have to go to meetings X amount of times a month. I would be in charge of doing this. So that would take away from the candidacy. And there are people that are, excuse me, that are balancing actually both. And so I'm just like, so I think I'm special where I have the ability to be freer, and they actually like that because and people are respecting, and they like the way I'm able to communicate with people, and just move and just be very involved, because I can go and speak to an elected dem and say what is going on. And there are other candidates that do have similar issues, but they are doing it on a smaller level, that are similar to me. But so I'd have to say I like the freedom more, not being tied to like rules that national and state have. And sometimes I forget the rules because like every week I keep asking like, are you guys collecting? So we can't, Christina, because we still have our convention. We have to do like, oh yeah, you guys follow rules.
That's funny.
Yeah.
As far as
Oh, and I do want to say Jill has not been voted in. I as an individual can pick the candidate that I'd like to support and collect signatures. So even if Jill loses, then I would have whoever wins the nomination, then I would have to actually recollect the signatures. Yeah. But this is who I decided I want to move forward with, because yeah. I just want to say that.
okay, can you expand on that some, because that is kind of confusing. Like I don't really. So when is the convention for the Green Party? You're talking about the National Party, right?
So okay, so every state has to vote in the presidential nomination. So Greens have people who vote in. So they're just like so they have their convention, and people will come, and it's ranked choice voting that we do. So so people are going to do like the first or second or third, and then whoever wins, that's who gets the nomination. But what I can do, because I'm not tied to the rules or the state, I can say, this is the candidate I believe in. This is the candidate that I'm going to support. And I do like other candidates too, but this is the one I want to go out there and collect signatures for. So that's where I have the freedom to do that. Now the convention is in like a month, I want to say. I want to say that. Yeah, so I actually can't remember the date. They sent it to me and I can't remember the date. Um and so I hope that sort of explains it, because the people that are in charge of that, they have to do ranked choice voting and they have to remain unbiased. And they do like different presidential candidates too. So I don't really have an idea of how it's going to go, because some people when we have our conversations, they're like, well, I like this candidate and I like this candidate, or I think this candidate's better. But it's going to be ranked choice voting. I just know who I'm collecting signatures for, and that's unrelated to the state.
Could you explain your tax holiday to my audience? That proposal that you have on your site?
Okay, so I want to do a payroll tax holiday where we are removing it. So when it comes to Social Security and stuff like that, that was only created through FDR as a placement holder in case there were some conservatives that wanted to take advantage and remove Social Security, because he believed okay, so we have the same beliefs. The people who run this country are the citizens of this country. Politicians are literally just figureheads and placeholders because they're always hiding in their office. They're never out in front. And it's us that do all the work. We are the infrastructure of this country. If 25% of us decided to go on strike, this country would be in trouble. If 30%, if that 25 jumped to 30%, we would see a huge issue. And if that jumped up even to 35%, 40%, or 50%, there would be no more America. Everything would crash. You don't need 100% people of going on strike. You just need to do damage. You just need 25%. And we're still in a lot of trouble with 25%. And then you saw that when it came to the potential, the people that worked for the trains, the railroad workers, when they did everything to stop that strike, and still East Palestine happened, and still they didn't get any support. So the payroll tax holiday would actually be adding more money to people's pockets, which is very important, and it would help small businesses, and it would also be an incentive for large businesses to also support candidates that actually, and when I say support me, like, host a space and stuff like that. Or if you have a printing shop, even offering to print out flyers too. That's another way that people could do donations. And if you have a connection to like mainstream media, because I know people and corporations do, like, say, interview Christina as a spot. That's another good donation too. So I do encourage people, again, with donations, get creative if you don't have money, because I do understand the inflation part, but it's going to give people more power, the working class, more power to have flexibility with their money. And the people who run this country deserve to retire with dignity and respect. It was our blood, sweat, and tears that kept these corporations going, that kept the country going, that keeps these small businesses going. And it's our money that goes back into the economy. So I want more power to happen with small businesses, give them a boost. I want more power to happen with families, give them a boost, and stuff like that. I'm the only candidate in the state of New Jersey that can actually explain this stuff, which also stresses me out, because I'm like, you have people literally saying nothing and not even explaining how they're going to do it. I can explain the breakdown of everything, and I can also explain how I'm going to hold people accountable, and that's what's going to force them to vote for my policies, and that's what's going to force them to support me. Because if you're not going to support me, I'm going to call you out publicly, and we'll make a scene, and you won't win your next seat.
As far as you talk about a federal job guarantee on your site.
Yes.
How does that work out? How do we define a livable wage, for instance? When you talk about guaranteeing the job, like what exactly is sufficient for a person, like as far as wages are concerned? Could you explain that?
So through the federal government, we could afford to pay people a livable wage. This would actually develop a healthy market when it comes to the private job sector, a healthy competition market that's going to encourage jobs to actually take better care of their employees. So we would be able to offer enough jobs and positions that actually we could take care of everyone in this entire country. No one would have to actually work for a private corporation. So that's going to up the private corporation's game again to have employees. So in order to come up with a livable wage, there's going to be a whole bunch of different infrastructures. Again, with affordable housing, that's going to be connected with that. The policies going through, healthcare going through. So it's going to range state by state. And inflation is always going to be when the market crashes, because if you look back the last 10 or 20 years, the market's always going up and down, up and down, up and down. So that way, when there's layoffs happening in these in the private prison, not the private job sector, the federal job guarantee comes and swoops in. It's going to end the unemployment unless you have like a medical or disabled. Like, it's not going to force everyone to work. So if you have a disability, you can't work, or you have surgery, you have to focus on getting recovery first. So if you're able and willing to work, which is majority of the entire country, unless there's something preventing a person, you're going to be able to go from that layoff to a job that actually fits your needs and your skill set. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No, but I was just going to clarify, this one affects someone who was like an entrepreneur or something, correct?
No, it would not.
Okay.
So the goal with the payroll tax holiday is to boost entrepreneurship. And this isn't like, if you're an entrepreneur, you're not going to need, unless you want, again, willing and able to work, unless you want to have a job, you're going to be building your own business. You're not going to need to go over to this job. So and if you choose, I don't want to do this entrepreneurship, then I'm going to do the state job. I mean, the federal job guarantee. So then that would be your own personal decision. So there's so many markets, because of there are a lot of people that have great small business ideas, but the corporations outshine them.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the taxes and how corporations bully small businesses out, it's nearly impossible for a small business to get off the ground. So the goal is to, between both, this is going to give more power to small businesses. This is also going to help small businesses, because we're going to be able to fund them and build different resources with them, so they're able to pay a livable wage to their employees. So it's not going to be completely from the business. We're going to give them a little boost, some incentive. Then when they're able to stand on their own, then yes, we'll step away as a government, because they're going to have their own infrastructure as well. But the help's always going to be there. So we want to take the money and invest in the United States infrastructure and the working class infrastructure. And that's going to give a boost, because instead of the money going to the 1% who hoards it, the money is going to go to the working class. And what is the working class going to do? They're going to spend it in the economy. And that's it, whether it's a car, whether it's an electric bike, whether it's a t-shirt every week, or whether it's going out. They're going to be the ones that go to small businesses and spend their money. They're going to be the ones that keep the restaurants afloat and spend their money. They're going to be the ones that go to a local coffee shop and spend their money. They're going to be the ones that keep everything functioning and rolling like a well-oiled machine.
Okay, I haven't asked this, I don't think, to people specifically, green or even the PSL people, but I'm curious, during the whole, when the onset of COVID happened,
Yeah.
there was a lot of different reaction to whether it was taking the shots, whether it was the origins of the virus, whether there was just so much that came up, and the mainstream media attributed lots of different causes and effects, and spread a lot of information to, honestly, I thought it was an overload personally. You had the death ticker on the screen, just all this stuff going on at the same time. We know that a lot of people died,
Mm-hmm.
and there probably are some people that are continuing to die as a result of that. There was a large transfer of wealth.
Oh, huge.
So there were multi-pronged issues. But I guess my question, particularly that deals with the Green Party, is what was the Green Party's stance on mandating shots? And what was your personal view on someone deciding to get the shot or not?
Okay. So I'm going to tell you my personal view, because again, my world was different than many other people's. The Green Party is against mandates. There is some that have went on record and they were just like, we should mandate and blah, 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 the science, blah, blah, blah. And I'm 1000% against mandates. And because of the history of the United States and experiments. And that is something we have to hold accountable. You cannot force people to trust the government that has no reason to be trusted, and that has done nothing but lie, abuse, and take advantage of innocent, vulnerable people. So 100% against mandates. And I do have a research background. When it comes to research, when it comes to any sort of medicine, and you saw this in Viagra, and you saw this in it's a mental health. It starts with a B. Burpion, whatever. I can't Burspion. Someone's gonna know in your audience what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And it started with that medicine too. But then what they keep denying is, in my research, the general public is the research experiment. So you could pass FDA approval and you could get 2 passed, and you can also get like 1 bad result, but the FDA is going to look at the 2 good results and say, okay, you're good to go ahead. The general public is always the public research. And that's how we learned the medicine that started with a B was also for, to help people to stop smoking. So not only does it help with mental health, but people that were taking this for mental health, they noticed they were reducing and they lost urges to stop smoking cigarettes because the cigarettes started tasting bad. So now that medicine is advertised to help with reducing cigarettes. And the same thing with Viagra. I forgot what it was for originally, but now it's for, ED. Yeah, ED. Because that was a general public. That was a side effect that they noticed. They're like, oh, we can advertise and market it for this too. So that is the reality of all medicine, because in all trials, you're going to see 1 step, but that's only for a short amount of time. We're not going to know the quantitative or the qualitative results of a giant, enormous population until it's all out in the public. And then that's when we get the larger results back. And then we're going to see so many people, say these are the same side effects or that's the same side effects. And I also, and the other reason I'm against mandates is because our medicine is so monopolized by corporations. Novavax was actually a non-mRNA vaccine that was also available for public trials and research and stuff like that. They actually held that back. You didn't give people an option when it was available.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I remember wanting to take that one. And I'm just like, if I'm going to be a guinea pig for anything, I want to do that one because
Right.
I trust the research more. And then, but it didn't matter what I was told by my supervisors. You would still have to take the ones we're telling you to take. And I'm just like, well, that's not fair. I shouldn't be doubling up on stuff when I have this. And they're saying, well, the government's not approving that. And then it also, not only it monopolizes and takes away people's freedom of choice, it also ruins healthy competition within these companies to come up with the better version of medicine. So not mandating anything, it's going to create a healthy competition. Look, if we're going to say your vaccine is the best and there's like 12 out there, show us your paperwork and keep everything public. There's nothing to hide or be ashamed about. And then the public's going to decide and be able to publicly say, we like this vaccine and this company. That's going to encourage people to make better quality medicine because it's public, and that's going to also help our international, like Cuba, for example, they have a lung cancer vaccine. So why don't we have that? And where's the competition to make better versions of that? So we want to be able, so yes, I am 100% against mandates because it discourages competition. It's not, it only gives fewer people fewer options. And it built on the antitrust the government has established when it comes to medicine. And it's not that they care because, and they don't care because you could have done the way they went so hard for COVID, they could have done that for opiates. They could have done that and give free Narcan, never charge, but even Narcan's like $50 or $60 a pop. And it's unrealistic. And then you could do that for cancer too, for cancer treatment. You don't have to charge people money if they need to get their diabetic medication. So you've exposed a lot through COVID. But there's always an excuse again for the for administration on it's okay to charge people an arm and a leg. It's okay that a person's dying because they can't afford their diabetic medication or their insulin. And it's just like, no, it's not okay. Hold people accountable. And that's going to give us more trust in the government when we have these healthy competitions between these companies, when we have all the information and research up ahead, the good and bad, and let people make these decisions themselves. So that's where I am against mandates.
Thank you. I had a final, I guess, question, and I think it's a big issue before we go, but I wanted to tell my audience to definitely check out Christina Khalil for U.S. Senate, your official website. I'm going to link everything in the episode description.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, Christina discusses immigration policy, climate change, universal health care, incarceration, the war on drugs, just a plethora of issues. but these are just some issues that I had on my mind. I want to talk about the issue of campaign finance reform before we close. How I feel like this is just one of the biggest animals affecting.
Hmm.
I can't even use the D word, the democracy people.
Yeah.
It's just how do we get around this lobbying and the funding, all this stuff? How do we get around that?
Unity. And again, and that's why I tell people, like, people think they have to have money to help corporations. I mean, to help candidates. You don't need money to help candidates. Money is great to like for us to use to get material, but if you can sit there and say, I have a printing shop and we could print, 50 flyers a month for you for free, or we can give you a free 20-second commercial somewhere, or it's unity, it's using the imagination and have creative solutions to get the answers and solutions out there. That's the only way we're going to be able to beat them. Because again, you have these people spending $15 million on media, and then when it comes to mainstream media, so say the Dems, say the Republicans donate $1 million to the media. If the Dems donate $2 million, that media company is working for the Dems now. So it's all about, so for them, they're spending millions of dollars to really push people out. So if we're not uniting and we're not using creative solutions and we're not saying, okay, this is how we're doing it as a team, then there's nothing, we're never going to make the changes that we want.
For instance, how would you get rid of super PACs? For instance, if like how would that come to conclusion? Like, who would have to agree on ending the super PACs? That's not something you could just do yourself, right? Who would have to agree on that to end super PACs, for instance?
So it would be a vote, but it's also getting the knowledge out there to the voters of what super PACs really do. Because a lot of people, you say super PACs and you say PACs and they think it's the same thing. Or super PACs will design themselves as PACs, but they're really super PACs. So it's really exposing the information to the voters and then explaining to them, this is what is going on when these people get this kind of money. And then that's going to give because again, education is the key. When you give that education to the voters, they're going to hold the people they voted for accountable. They're going to call them up. They're going to write them letters. And if they do not vote to ban the super PACs, then they're going to get voted out. And that's the reality. It's giving the power back to the voters instead of letting them feel like they're powerless.
So to a person who's out there that may not know what it is because they see them on television all the time, what are super PACs? Because you see all these different advertisements. If you're on Facebook or whatever it is, and you see all these different, ads paid for by the friends of so and so or whatever, or would those be PACs or super PACs?
Super PACs, most likely. So a good example would be APAC. APAC would be a super PAC. That would be the best example. So they've already pledged to spend over $100 million to get their candidates in office. Nobody should be spending $100 million to continue to do. So anyone that's getting APAC funded money means that they support what's happening in Palestine. And Open Secrets and the FEC are good research
Oh
places.
yeah.
But finding the receipts. So super PACs are prevent people, and I'll use again APAC, like Lindsey Graham. He's someone that, and Andy Kim and Biden, they've all received APAC funded money. So when a person donates a large amount of money to you, you're not going to let go of that money. You're going to do what they own you. They just bought you your property. So you cannot call out the injustices or the truth. You are doing whatever your donors are saying. And super PACs tend to have connections to corporations. So then that means not only did they get like $1 million from APAC, that means they're getting money from Google. That means they're getting money from Amazon. So it turns into this giant web of corruption that you
And
don't have a candidate that could speak the truth.
it's interesting because my dad, we were talking about this on episode 100, how he was making the case that the church is the state because technically APAC is a religious lobby if you look at their categorization.
Mm-hmm.
So you already have breaches between the church and the state is basically, I mean, one, which is very scary. The government and these corporations are pretty much one entity. I mean, you took YouTube, for instance, Google and YouTube is the same company. They get government contracts.
Yep.
And then you have military contractors on the mainstream media all the time, spreading whatever information they want to. You have the same companies who weren't held liable during the COVID crisis, advertising during the Super Bowl commercials. I mean, advertising their products. I mean, you have all these different influences just going on, which is to me is mind-boggling that you can literally. And I was telling someone, who was I telling this to? I think a few episodes ago, I was telling Norman Finkelstein or somebody that if you look at just the donations from the banks, for instance, whether it's Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, it's always 51-49, 52-48. And people are like, how are they able to donate 50-50 to each party? What do you mean? Because they're both bought off.
Yeah.
Talking about how they're able to do it.
Yep.
It's not just the banks that are doing it either. It's any corporation that you can think of that's a mega corporation.
Oh, 100% agree. And you are right when it comes to the religion. Like, there's even churches around here that host only one type of candidate because they have that relationship with certain candidates, and then other candidates they'll push away. Oh, you were muted.
Yes, I was going to say that I know that we have some time constraints, but I want to give you like a final minute or two in case you had a question or maybe just a final comment from my audience. And I just want to say thanks for coming on to Kiko's Freethinkers Forum today. And this has been a wonderful episode 111.
Yes, it has been. All right. I want to just say thank you for allowing me to be a guest and sharing my vision and message with your viewers. And I just want to leave off, guys, if you can donate or volunteer, go to KhalilForSenate.com. Please, we need all the help. If you're not in New Jersey, but you have media ability or phone banking ability, reach out to us, and then we could set you up with my media person who's volunteering to help manage my media pages. And we could do this as a team because united we are strong. Do not let us continue to be divided because that is the future of our country and the future of our children. So please donate, like, share, reach out, communicate. And again, united we are strong. We can only do this together.
Thank you so much. I know I have to go now because my daughter's trying to video from the interview. She came into the room. I was like, you better not do that. It's so good. And then she's like, I have to make an appearance so people can see me.
Well, tell her I say hi. Tell her I say hi.
Oh, yes, no doubt.
Hi.
But beautiful people, enjoy the rest of your day. This is a wonderful episode 111. Who do we have up next? I can't tell you all. Just stay tuned to the show, Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. Subscribe for free. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a little bit of time to expand your mind. And remember, you can't unthink free thought. Enjoy the rest of your day, beautiful people, and we will talk soon. Cheers, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.